Yeah, but I mean, once Cuomo's gone, the nursing home scandal, it's I don't think it really resonates nationally. It's a huge story if you're Janice Dean or you lost a relative, but I I don't know that it has any national legs to begin with. It's a New York story.
Well, Howie, especially because while Governor Cuomo was, mishandling that situation, he basically gave these nursing homes immunity where they can't, legally no one can sue them, I think.
Well, I think you know what, I know they're concentrating on that because there's so many people dead, but I think a lot of states, I think Massachusetts has pretty much nursing home immunity. I mean, look at how much money Charlie Parker took from them, $52,000. DeLeo, the former House Speaker, the unindicted co-conspirator, took $45,000 from the nursing homes.
I think compared to Charlie Baker, I think compared to Cuomo, what Charlie Baker took from the nursing homes was kind of chump change. Yeah. Because Cuomo got a lot of money.
But they passed a bill, and I think it was in April of last year, to grant some kind of immunity to indemnify the nursing homes, basically. So it's just on a smaller level. That's all. 774. Maybe Cuomo was actually a Kennedy. It's really a weird thing that the Kennedy women tend to marry guys that are like their male relatives. Like, what was it? Gene Kennedy married Steve Smith, who was just a really bad guy. And he was a businessman in the family. And then you have Maria Shriver marries Arnold Schwarzenegger, who fathers the kid out of wedlock with the maid. Yep. And now you have Kerry Kennedy hooks up with Andrew Cuomo, who's touching everything but the third rail. It's just it's a weird pattern, isn't it?
Yeah, and Howie, I sent you an excerpt. I think it was last week. I think it was Vanity Fair, but it might have been Variety. I always get them confused. But there was an excerpt from some article where the Kennedys were talking about Andrew Cuomo and just like how unlikable he was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was just
Hickory
talking
Hill or something.
Yeah, at Hickory Hill, where Ethel Kennedy lived, and Dougie Kennedy, the guy who works for Fox now, used to work for the Herald and the Nantucket newspaper. He was the source. He was talking about how they were all laughing at him, but just basically say what a tool this guy is.
Yeah,
which of course he was and is.
They asked him a question, and in the excerpt, it just says he bloviated for like 5 minutes. And then after it, they asked him the same question again, and everybody laughed except for him. Like he can't take any sort of joke about himself. This is nothing new. I said this today, Howie, but you don't start bullying people when you're 63 years old, and you don't start sexually harassing people when you're 63 years old. This is clearly a pattern. This is not his first time doing anything.
Right. If we have two women out there and, more are anonymously listed in these stories that are, or blog postings that are coming out, there's got to be a lot more women that are going to step out here.
And Howie, can I point something out that I thought was hysterical? So this stuff, obviously, anyone who praised Andrew Cuomo is, getting their rightful comeuppance now, and people are posting old takes that aged poorly. And to be fair, a lot of people, including myself, in the beginning didn't think he was doing a terrible job and kind of acknowledged that. But there was this level of gushing from the mainstream media. And so someone put together all of the Vogue hot takes. And so I read one today, and it was titled, this was from March 22nd, almost a full year ago, "Why We Are Crushing on Andrew Cuomo Right Now." So that's absurd in itself, but then they include in the little screenshot who wrote it, Molly Jong-Fast, who you'll remember how he tried to kill the story about John Weaver when it first came out.
I think she's done some other stuff too that's worse than that, didn't she? She's been involved in a lot.
I just find it ironic that she's gushing over this guy who's now being accused of sexually harassing people, while at the same time trying to kill stories about another guy who's sexually harassing young men. It just seems, and then you have, and speaking of, the Lincoln Project, then you have people like Jennifer Rubin who were writing ridiculous things on Twitter, talking about how wonderful he is and how refreshing it is that he's speaking. These people just slobbered over him. And now they're all going, wait, how was I supposed to know that he's a freak?
I know. Well, how about this too? So Cuomo is being pilloried. He's being run out of town for being a bully, in addition to being a sexual harasser. And he has to put in the statement that he gives to the New York Times, my office has heard anecdotally that some people have reached out to Ms. Bennett to express displeasure about her coming forward. I wonder how they reached out. Did she have a horse's head on her bed or what? My message to anyone doing that is you have misjudged what matters to me. His rear end matters to him. That's what matters to him. And he's afraid if this becomes public that his thugs are threatening this young woman, that it's really going to be the end. My message to anyone doing this is you have misjudged what matters to me and my administration, and you should stop now, period.
Well, Howie, to your point, so I know that you'll spend a lot of time on this today about this second accuser, Charlotte Bennett, but there's another person, ex-journalist Lindsay Nielsen, and she talks about being bullied, and this sounds more, less on the sexually harassment side and more on the Ron Kim side of it, where she was getting calls from his thugs and underlings basically telling her, you will shut up, or, just threats kind of. And she said, I don't want to mischaracterize it. She said that a lot of people, let me see this. It says the tactics used were deliberate yet evasive. The late night phone calls from the administration, the constant threats to call my boss, the incessant bullying to try and get me to stop doing my job and reporting specific stories. It would never end. So I think what's going to be interesting about this, Howie, is not just Andrew Cuomo and all the stories that come out about him, but all of these women say, there's a common theme here where they say his underlings were very much involved in this culture and perpetuated his power.
Well, she mentioned this person named Morgan Peem, who served as editor-in-chief of City and State. I guess that's an Albany publication from 2012 to 2014. And I thought Morgan Peem, that's one of those names could go either way. I looked him up. It's a guy. So the guy's getting threats too. And another ironic thing too is that Michael Goodwin had this in his column, that he was talking to some guy who when Cuomo was first running, and he knew he was going to win. Had taken out Patterson, Spitzer was gone. He was going to win in a landslide, and he would say this person was talking to Cuomo off the record, said, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to get it done in the first 2 terms because the third term is always a disaster." And guess what? He was pressing it, at least in that one regard. The third term, and the third term is always a disaster. I mean, look at Mike Dukakis going back. I mean, Charlie Parker has just advanced it a little bit and made the second term into a disaster. But usually it takes the third term to really trash your reputation and your administration's record.
Howie, Charlie Baker's quick. He's a basketball player, so he's always been faster than everybody else. I do want to play this awkward moment where Dana Bash confuses the Cuomo brothers, Howie, because I find it amazing that in Fredo's life, he's probably always wanted to be mixed up with his cool older brother, except for right now. This is the one time that you shouldn't mix the two up, and she does it. This is Cut 13.
The New York Times is reporting last night that a second allegation of sexual harassment against New York Governor Chris Cuomo. This is a report from a former aide, Charlotte.
You know who I am?
And you know what the thing is, Howie? You can hear how nervous they are to finally have to report on this. There's a real shakiness in their voices.
What about your friend Marcus from the Federalist? He was going after Costa on Friday at CPAC in Orlando, saying, "Why are you concerned about Ted Cruz's trip to Cancun when Cuomo has killed thousands of vulnerable senior citizens?" And this was before even this stuff. 978 wants to know, when is the next story about Cuomo's nipple rings coming out?
Oh, God, the story scarred me for life. Wait, but Howie, to your point about David Marcus, I saw that video. It was awesome, but he also wrote a recap of CPAC, and I just want to read you this one part of it. He said, Trump gave his speech. He's not fighting for a new party. He is the party. He brought his carnival of liberty back to a big crowd. Is he fighting the feckless? Yeah, of course he is. But he reminded us all that the GOP has changed, and it's glorious. And David Marcus does not feel bad about taking on Jim Acosta, despite all the left-wing trolls who are pearl clutching on Twitter saying, "You were so rude to him. You were so rude to Jim Acosta."
Jim Acosta lied to him when he said they were covering the story. They weren't covering the story. They've never covered the story. Maybe now they're going to be forced to, I guess, cover the story. Dana Bash. But I mean, you're right. They're being dragged kicking and screaming into dealing with this. I mean, they made that guy out to be a hero. For months, they were much more embarrassing and slobbering than MSNBC even.
No, right. And the fact that like someone like Chris Cillizza pretends, plays Mickey the Dunce, pretends he really doesn't understand why people are giving him such a hard time. Like, well, this story just broke. It's like, well, but that's not the point. And Carol Markowitz had a great reply to him. She said, "You were one of the softest interviews of all of them. You made a whole video about how he should run for president. You let him say that he did a great job on the numbers, which was absurd. It was egregious. And the words you're looking for are, 'I'm sorry.'" But Howie, we've said this a million times. Being a Democrat means never having to say you're sorry, but right. Especially being in the media, they will never apologize. Before I let you go, Howie, I got to let people know that Grace's News is brought to you by Hellofresh. Get simple recipes and fresh, pre-portioned ingredients delivered to your door, contact-free with Hellofresh. For a limited time, go to HelloFresh.com and use code Howie10 for 10 free meals, including free shipping from America's #1 meal kit. That's code Howie10 for 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com. Howie, one last thing. Did you catch Al Pacino last night at the Golden Globes?
Come on, Grace. You know better than that.
I know, but this is what made me laugh. So last night I was watching Godfather 2. After Trump finished at CPAC, I had it kind of recorded, ready to go. So I watched Godfather 2, and I was so happy I didn't watch the Golden Globes because it looked like a terrible, tech glitchy Zoom call. And I guess Al Pacino went viral because when the computer screen was on him, he looked like he was sleeping. He kind of dozed off, and then he kind of, he
was bonding with probably 80% of the audience, tiny as it was.
Howie, someone tweeted out, Al Pacino sleeping at the Golden Globes is the most I've ever related to a celebrity. It was the most boring event I've ever seen. I saw even the recaps were boring. Like nothing happened except for, calls for more diversity by the two white liberal rich hosts. Totally brutal.
Yeah, Jane Fonda. Yeah, Jane Fonda. Talk about a child of white privilege. Oh my God.
She was one of the best moments on the recaps. The New York Post said her speech when she won the Cecil B. DeMille Award was one of the highlights.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Grace.
I had to get a little Golden Globes in there, Howie, just to make your eyes roll back.
Thanks. That's it for the Golden Globes. No more. There will be no more mention for the entire 3+ hours of the show.
Howie,
today.
Why do I feel like your audience will be totally fine with that?
They're already threatening me to never come back if I don't stop it right here.
It's over. It's over, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Howie.
I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm always looking at a screen now more than ever. And whether you're an avid news watcher or in serious need of a distraction, unplugging yourself is easier said than done. One of my favorite ways to rest my eyes and still get the content I'm itching for by putting in my Raycon wireless earbuds and listening to something great. I love those true crime podcasts, especially my own, Dirty Rats. I was listening to it again this weekend just to check it out. I got to do a second season. I've got some Howie Winter stuff an interview I did with him before he died. It's great stuff. I love true crime podcasts, and I can listen without bothering anybody else, not the mailroom manager, nobody that I'm hanging out with downstairs by the pool where I live in Florida. Raycons are the way to go because no one even notices you got them in your ears. There's no dangling wires like with other earbuds. Raycons are built to perform anywhere and anytime with water and sweat resistant construction and Bluetooth that pairs quickly and seamlessly. And with enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime, you can unplug for a while. Raycons come in a range of stylish colorways with a comfortable in-ear fit for a more discreet look. The best part, Raycon makes great sound accessible to everyone with wireless earbuds starting at half the price of other premium audio brands. Now, Raycon's offering 15% off all their products for my listeners, and here's what you've got to do to get it. Go to buyraycon.com/Howie. Whether you like podcasts or music or instructional videos, whatever. Raycons are the way to go because you won't be bothering anyone else, and the sound is fantastic. That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/Howie, buyraycon.com/Howie. I'm Howie Carr.